Welcome back to the Fearless Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lynne, and today I'm very happy to have Ixi Chen as my guest. Ixi, welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy to connect with you again. And you are the founder of Music 360. And we have been fans of you guys since before 2020. I've been following everything that you've been doing over with your wonderful community. So we've admired you for a long time. And you're also a clarinetist with the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. So welcome. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners today.
Well, first of all, we also admire you very much as well, and we love what you are presenting to young musicians today. And we have the same approach, I think, in terms of looking more holistically at the artist
Yeah, I
and
agree.
really trying to get down into like what is holding us back and what is making us play small. And instead, feeling all of that and saying, well, actually, I have much more to share than I have to prove. And how do we
Ooh,
access those? How do we access those tools? And it's going to be different tools for everybody. But I love that we're having this conversation and there are more and more people in this space talking about such an important thing where, in my experience, it's always been practice more, practice more. You need to get into the practice room. You need to learn your fundamentals. And that is essential. That is something that all musicians have to do. And there's a period in life when we're just obsessed, with getting mastery.
hmm
But there's, after a while, you have to expand back out. I mean, if you remember the first time you thought you were going to become a musician, do you remember that moment? I remember a few moments like that.
Really? Okay, okay. I
I
do. I
mean,
don't know if I do, but yes, yes.
it's this place where you thought, I mean, it was a place of expansion, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like you saw what was possible. And then you go to music school and they say, you have to do it like this. WC is played this way. Bach is played that way. And then you get boxed in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, okay, you're out in the world. Now what?
Good luck. Suck
Yeah,
it in.
exactly. Good luck to you. Keep
Yeah,
practicing.
yeah,
The more
right.
you practice, the better off you'll be and the more successful you'll be.
Yeah.
And they forget to tell you that you can expand out again. And so our conversation here among you and I and other like-minded musicians is how do we find that expansion again?
Well,
And
that's
so
so
music,
beautiful. Yeah. No, please.
yeah, I think Music 360 is all about accepting all that you are, not just accepting, but evolving and discovering and truly feeling what you want to do. It's instead of just following the path that everybody says you need to follow, but what are the possibilities? And I think in today's world, more than ever, you can get creative and you can find your paths. And I say paths because there's not just one. Our lives are, if we talk about a path or a roadmap, but it's really more in our various roles. We are presenters, we are collaborators, we are not just musicians, but we are this and that. And in our multitudes, we have many paths. So it's more like an atlas, is what I like to think of it. Like, okay, with this role and this role, here's the intersection. And I'm starting to see that I'm driven by X. I'm driven by
Mm,
bringing people together, or I'm driven by telling stories, or I'm driven by starting a conversation
mm-hmm.
or having a dialogue. So what is it that is meaningful to you besides just mastering your instrument? And so the 360 of us, the whole artist, is what is, I think, going to not only make it a more vibrant artistic experience for us and the audience, but also a way that we can find our way and build
Mm,
success
mm-hmm.
and have a fulfilling and sustainable life in music. So I think that's something that I feel has been a little taboo to talk about until recently. So
Oh,
I'm really
really?
happy to see that shift.
Okay, so what have you
Taboo,
noticed? Yeah, please.
yeah, no, taboo in terms of like, oh, you want to be, oh, you want to be an entrepreneur. Oh, you want to build stuff. Why don't you just focus on taking auditions?
Yeah.
Just take auditions,
Yeah.
right?
So why
So,
don't
and
you?
I mean, you can, but I feel like if you have other creative outlets, and I'll tell you, the people in my orchestra, at least, I know a lot of people who have other creative outlets, and I think that's going to be, I think that's very necessary, um, to be able to offer the music that you have inside of you in different ways. But it is taboo also to talk about nerves, performance anxiety. There are, you know, little corners of the music industry that are talking about that more these days. But usually you can't just show up on stage and be like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. I'm so nervous about this solo, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're
Not to
talking
the
about
audience anyway.
wellness,
Yeah.
when we're talking about wellness, there's so many aspects to it. And yeah, I just think that we have so many interconnected parts that just working on one aspect of ourselves isn't going to be enough.
You're dropping so many gems in the first 3 minutes of this podcast. I need to go back to the you have something to say more than you have something to prove. Is that what you said? You have
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. I'm gonna keep that like put it everywhere on my wall. It's so good. You have
I was
something to
just,
yeah.
yeah, I was just talking to, actually, she is a very, very high level amateur pianist, but she's a cardiac surgeon by day.
Okay.
And I was
Okay.
just talking to her yesterday about this whole idea of nerves and how she's looking at it and how it's changed in her career. She does perform quite a bit on piano as well. Um, and so just thinking about how we can, okay, I had a few tangents here. So
I
let's
love
let's let's
every tangent. This is great. Just keep going. Just, just take us away. This is, I'm just enjoying this.
so we were just talking about the idea of that, a little shift in your mindset that just has to be that 1%, that, so that you're over the mark by 51% wanting to share something, and that's going to
Mm,
outweigh the 49% of you that's like, oh, I'm nervous about what they're going to think, and if I'm going to be able to memorize things, and if I'm not going to have a slip, or if I'm going to have a mistake. And that 1% shift is going to make all the difference for you.
mm.
And that it's not like you have to wipe it totally out, right? I'm sure you talk about this a lot in Fearless, that you don't have to be completely fearless. It's something that does exist and it's part of you, and we're human.
Yeah.
There's that protector part of us that wants us
Yeah.
to be safe.
Yes.
But if you can focus on what it is that you have to share and connect with your audience, and even if it's just 1%, it doesn't have to be 100% that way, but that it is going to outweigh and it's going to be bigger than your desire not to be embarrassed or, feel shamed for making a mistake or not playing something in tune perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was an interesting conversation.
I love the 1% that you're bringing up because it makes it so much more manageable for us. If you are stuck in that place of fear, and yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Fearless is we take it from the feel the fear and do it anyway.
Hmm.
So fearless is just not allowing that to stop you, but you're aware and you still step out. So I love that idea
Yeah.
of giving room for the anxiety, the fear, the worries about messing up or the judgment or whatever. And still, I just need 1% more conviction, and then I'm on my way. And not pretending and putting up this bulletproof kind of facade of like, oh, I never struggle. I think every time I walk on stage, I'm still gonna have a little bit of like, are they gonna like it? Is everyone here
Yeah.
having a good time? I've done
Right.
it how many times, and it's a music that they love, and it's a easy atmosphere, and still you're just like hoping that it's gonna be great, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And when we watch people like when you post your performances, it's like, wow, so beautiful. You play so beautifully. And
Thank
I
you.
think people see that and say, I will never get there. It's
Yeah.
so perfect. It's so well done. It's so well thought out. She's so blank. And then you don't. when you look at something like that, you say, well, I can never do that. I can never step on that stage, by myself and entertain people for this long. But then when you actually go into the action of it, it's quite different.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can put yourself into the place of, we're having this moment together, and I'm going to be totally present, and I'm going to try to connect, and I'm not going to be her, but I'm going to be me. And from my point of view, I have this and I have that to share. And I really want to connect with people on this because this is what makes me feel alive.
Yes.
So once we stop trying to be like somebody else and just say, okay, I love this. I love having conversations about this. Then we can start having a real conversation. And if people are sort of like, oh, well, when am I going to have for dinner? This is nice, but what am I going to do next? You have to just let them have their experience as well. You never know where people are coming from. And if you can just connect with 3 or 4 people or the 20 people here, it's all good.
I love
And
this.
all you need to do is just ship the work and send it out and, find the freedom in that.
So with your own career and with your clients, what have you seen in the development, the process of learning this? Because I completely agree with you. And ironically, I was that person, I would say a couple, 2 or 3 years scrolling and I could never be that. I could never be in those big fancy dresses, those huge halls. How did they get that concert? Like total self-sabotage and never thinking that I would be able to do that. So it was kind of like just so ridiculous that when Candlelight opened up for me and I was being sent all these places, I was like, look what was just on the other side of your doubt and disbelief.
Yeah.
And we do have everything that we need. We can step into it. It just takes conviction and to not get overwhelmed with the bigness of it all. I mean, for me, it's like when you're in a dark room, there could be 40 people there or 400. It doesn't really matter. Like you're showing up and you're giving what you have to give in that moment. And that's what I focus on.
Yeah.
But yeah, for you, like how do you develop this healthy mindset? Because I just love what you're saying.
I think some of us who have struggled, and especially as women, the world wasn't necessarily made for us to be able to step out as our full selves, right? Like even in masterclass, when you practice walking out on stage and taking that bow and smiling, there's something that you have to go through on your own. And with the people that I've worked with, the students over the last 20 years, it really has been an energetic shift more. I mean, having your preparation, having your practice done and having done your due diligence and covered the bases. From that point, it's really how you can turn the experience around so that you're seeing it from a different perspective, that you're telling the story of something inside the content or the piece of music or your talk. There's something that you're allowing the audience to feel or you want to give permission. So you're transferring an energetic. And once you're focused on that, that seems to be the key that unlocks what most people have felt that is an obstacle in their playing. Like, most of it is, can I get through this technical passage? Right? Like, this is coming up and I can't wait to get it over with. If I can get that over with, the rest will be smooth sailing. But if you put more energy into that defensive kind of playing, then you're going to lose sight of what it is that you're sharing. But if we can put back into the forefront, this is the story I want to tell. And that's so cliche, right? It's like, oh gosh, you have to think of a story to tell. What's your story? Right? But really it is like, did you know that this composer had lost like 2 of his children? And this is where he's writing this from.
Right.
A lot of my followers know that my sister passed last year. And I'll just tell this quick little story because it was so meaningful to me. It was 3 months after she passed, and we were doing a performance of Petrushka with our previous music director, Louis Longray, and he was coming back for the first time. He planned Petrushka, and on the first half was the Mozart Symphony Concertant for winds. And so the principal clarinet was playing that, and he said, can you just cover the first piece, which is a modern piece by Jennifer Higdon called Blue Cathedral? And I said, okay, well, let me take a look at the music, because I don't move up that often. I'll move up, once every 2 years. And so it's a new thing where I have to find, my principal clarinet read and, just prepare mentally for it. Mm. And so the first day of rehearsal, we sit down and he's like, okay, before we get into the music, I just want to tell you about this piece. It's written by Jennifer Higdon for her brother who passed away. And her brother played flute. I think so. One of them played flute, one of them played clarinet. I think maybe he was the clarinetist and she was the flutist. Anyway, it was a dialogue between the siblings, and it was a dialogue between clarinet and flute. And I had no idea. And so that became what shifted for me. It was like, you know what? This is my conversation with my sister. How perfect is that? So the story behind the story is really what's interesting. And when you are able to connect with that, everything else becomes less important. And you just put your energy into that story or into that feeling. And I have to tell you that it served me even beyond that time on stage. It's like a 15-minute piece. But the feeling of that connection and that sharing, and no matter what the story is, you fit it in to that feeling of connecting and sharing and from a meaningful place. And so I think that one piece of it has been the most effective exercise that I've been able to do with my students. And then doing it myself, right? Which is another thing altogether. You're telling people, hey, you need to do this. And then you don't put yourself in the positions to do that. Right. And then you do, and you're like, oh, that's right. That's how it feels. So.
Right. Oh, thank you for sharing that. What a powerful story.
It's beautiful.
It's too coincidental. I think that was, it sounds like a gift.
It was.
Did this clarinetist know what he was asking of you in that moment?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No. Yeah.
Wow.
It was just the perfect situation, perfect circumstance there.
Wow.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And I mean, you're exactly right. When we can connect to those deeper meanings of the music, that whether it's the story or the feeling or the emotion or the energy, as you're saying, what we are communicating to the audience, that is what they feel. And they know if this music is touching us because they can feel it themselves when they receive it. And of course, the music is energy. We are literally transferring energy to an audience on stage. So when we connect it to that deeper meaning and values to us as humans, I think that's just the most beautiful thing we can give to an audience.
Right. And it doesn't have to be like, okay, this is the story of the music. It doesn't always have to be that.
Right.
You can.
It's not Peter and the Wolf. It's
you can connect it to anything that you're wanting to communicate. Like, I just want you could even have a general, I want people to feel happier when they hear this solo.
Yeah.
Or I want the sound to be a certain way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So with your clients, when they come in, do you have a coaching aspect as well to Music 360? I'd love to know more about how it works.
Yeah, it's more, some people want to come in and work on auditions. Some people want to come in and work on their portfolio, their materials. And other people have projects that they're wanting to get off the ground, or they just want to come in and say, look, I'm afraid about raising my prices. Can we workshop this and talk about how to do that and how to not lose people, and let's strategize the communication. So it could be anything. I love helping people take the next step. It's the one thing that I could just do forever, I think. Music 360, I think eventually I would love to have a retreat center. And I've only started talking about this in a wider way like weeks ago. I remember the point in my life when it was scary to say it to one person, like a friend, even. And now to say, this is what we're working towards, a place for people to workshop things, workshop ideas, workshop music, be together in a regenerative space
Yes.
that
Oh
is
my gosh.
safe and that is able to hold you in your entirety and support you. It's not exactly like a FAMS or a place where people go and work in cabins. It's not exactly like that. I want it to be a little bit more connected, and then working together in groups of people who are working towards the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the purpose right now of
Mhm.
everything that we're doing is to build towards that.
Oh, that is so beautiful and so needed.
Because
Yeah.
we're so siloed, aren't we? We're just
Mhm.
like, okay, do you remember in music school practicing with people and then let's take a break at 8:30
Yes.
and like we'll sit in the hallway or just walk around outside and talk and then go back to practicing.
Yeah.
Like that would be
Definitely.
so great. Something
Yes.
like that. So
Yeah.
our community is something that we hope is feels that way. Although, having taken last year off, it's right now a process of rebuilding and
Hmm.
reimagining what that container looks like.
Hmm.
But
And I know you
yeah,
also have some workshops and faculty within Music 360.
yeah, we have 5 teachers, not only Ted Nelson, my husband, who plays cello and is stepping into the world of artistic administration. Actually, he's been there and he's, you know, straddling that world right now between performing and being an administrator.
Yeah.
There's Nick Patinos, who has been a longtime collaborator here at Music 360, and he played as a Blackbird for many years. He was one of the founding members there, and now he teaches at CCM. We have David Cook, who focuses on the academic application. So if you want to prepare your interview or get your teaching philosophy together, he's that guy. We also have a wonderful teacher named Annie Phillips, who was former faculty at the New England Conservatory, and she was the director of entrepreneurship there. They
Oh,
don't have that
fantastic.
program anymore,
Oh, interesting.
but she is still devoted to teaching professional development and arts marketing. We have the last person is Austin Pantsner, who's the functional musician.
Oh, I've heard of
Um,
him.
yeah, he's a bass trombonist. He happens to be married to our piccolo player in Cincinnati.
Okay.
So I was really happy to find out that he's right here in town.
Yes.
And he's a performance health specialist, basically to help people overcome tension, pain, and injury. He also has a very similar holistic approach. So it's a exciting faculty that I'm looking forward to introducing people to. So we're just
Okay.
putting together the parts right now
Yep.
for hopefully what I would love to address in the world of music, in the world of music schools, as a gap in education.
Okay.
And from these myriad points of views of people who've had very divergent pathways in music, that there could be some sort of service for music schools that students can take advantage of. And my hope is that it's required
Hmm.
eventually, that
Yeah.
maybe it's an elective where this you can get a certificate or you can get credit for taking the basic foundation course. And
Yep.
then people who have projects, now in DMAs, they have people have ability to choose like a capstone project or a recording project or this as their lecture recital. But if they want to take that further, um, we have the structure here to help and guide and support and make that happen, give you accountability to make that happen. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's the next step for us, what we're building, not just the coaching part of it and not just the group work, but eventually group work in a beautiful location together,
Hmm.
and where you're really going to get 4 or 5 days of getting things done together. And then also this program for schools. So
That's fantastic.
that's the big
Yeah,
picture.
so needed. And how exciting to be working with such a great faculty of people that you've
Fantastic.
hand selected. Yeah, and they've all got their individual X's, as you were saying earlier.
Right.
Um, I know that you just went and spoke in Chicago for some young musicians. I'd love to hear about that.
Oh, it was an incredible experience. It was for the Civic Orchestra of Chicago, which is a group of musicians who are all part of a training orchestra.
Okay.
And there's others like New World Symphony, there's Music Now, and Civic, which is a highly competitive audition to get in. And not only do they have rehearsals, coachings, but they also have workshops that
Okay.
are, you know, career workshops or audition topics. So it was a 3-hour workshop in which I thought it would be interesting to talk about diversifying skill sets to expand career possibilities.
Mhm.
But with everything that was going on in the United States this month, I started thinking and feeling like there's something else that needs to be talked about. And so going back to what we were talking about earlier together, this idea of this anxiety, this fear of putting yourself out there, I think that's the one common thread that I would say 99% of musicians have. It's such an uncertain field. It's not like you go to business school and then you leave and you're prepped for a job at Goldman Sachs or whatever. The odds of winning an audition, there are 26,000 degrees handed out in the United States in music performance
Per year.
per year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And looking at those numbers and realizing, do I really have what it takes? Am I enough? Am I going to make it? These are the questions that swirl around, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea became I wanted to go a little bit deeper with how can we build a sustainable career in today's music landscape. And so it became a talk about anxiety, but
Mm.
it's more not just about anxiety, but how to transform anxiety into agency, which really changes the question of will I make it to how will I make it work?
Ooh, that's
Which
great.
isn't that just so much more powerful? Like, oh,
Yes.
actually, I do have choices that I can make. I'm not just relying on luck or just practicing more and hoping somebody will hear me
Pick
and
me.
say, oh,
Yep.
you're good. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Pick me.
Yep.
Pick me. I'm here.
Yep.
Don't you like me? Right?
Yeah.
Why don't you picking me? But
Yeah.
instead saying, okay, we're going to say, how are we going to make it work? What's the next action you can take? And so we started with taking inventory, and then we moved on to seeing how your roles fit together. And then we worked on how to find your onlyness factor,
Oh,
which is how you differentiate yourself.
I love that.
And
I've never heard
then,
that before.
yeah,
That's
it
good.
was it was a lot of quiet time, and it was a lot of sharing and people starting to open up a little bit more about what they can offer the world.
Hmm.
And then at the end, we talked about ways to, well, one, how to regulate yourself, because putting yourself out there is a nervous system activation, right?
Absolutely.
And if you're always like this and you can't
Yeah.
share from a place where you're regulated, and in the world right now, this is, I think, probably the main reason why I wanted to go a little deeper is you're seeing a lot of people act from a place that they're out of balance, they're out of whack, they're not regulated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so wrapping it all up with that, and then the exercise of how do I share my story and how do I put that story and that purpose and that noble pursuit into my materials, into my resume, into my personal statement, or into my teaching philosophy, or into my into my project that I'm doing with students or XYZ. And a number of students actually came up and said, I'm working on this project. I've had this project for 3 years, or I'm working with somebody to bring this idea to life.
Mm.
And I think doing this exercise where you're saying, I am this, who also does this, and I do this. So putting the words who and into the sentence really changes the whole identity.
Can you give us your example? So do you say I'm Ixi or I'm a clarinetist?
I usually say I'm a clarinetist who,
Okay.
because people will say, oh, you're a clarinetist. That makes sense to me. Oh, but you also work with people holistically, or you also help people find the reason why they are pursuing music. That's interesting. That's always a better, more powerful way to present yourself. And also people are interested and they'll remember you and they're curious and it's exploratory. So it's a shift that you're making in your identity that I think is really important.
There was a third part of the sentence, no?
Who, I am somebody who does this and does that. So it's who and.
Okay, who and. So I am a pianist who also coaches musicians, and then I add an and.
Yeah, have a podcast.
And I have to do I have to do multiple things. Okay, got it. I do. Yeah, thank you for telling me.
Or you can say I'm a pianist and podcaster who loves helping people feel empowered to share their story.
Yes, amen. And I sing. I got to start talking about that more. That's my 2026 goal.
Yeah. I'm a pianist and singer.
Right. Yeah.
In the classical and
crossover
space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is such a helpful template because we talk a lot about how to make that first quick impression and, the elevator pitch. And, I love this onlyness that you're talking about because we do the purple cow from Seth Godin. So like, what's making you purple? What is that?
Right here.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I know we're so like-minded. We just I'm coming to that retreat. I'm going to be there.
Yes. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Just like that key phrase or key word that will make people remember you. I mean, this is a great way to practice that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to share the onlyness template.
Yeah, please. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Would love that. Well, maybe that can be when people DM or follow you.
Perfect.
That you can send that. Yeah, that'd be great.
It's actually from a marketing branding space, and it's an exercise that is based on the idea of there's a designer named Marty Neumeier, and he wrote the book Zag. And so when people are zigging, you zag. And so what is your zag? What is your differentiator? And there's a template with 7 blanks, and you're to work on think through how you're going to fill those blanks. And it's really eye-opening, and you feel after when you're done with it, it's like, oh, I never thought about myself that way.
Interesting.
And it's truly empowering. Yeah.
This has been a lot on my mind lately, actually. We're doing our next workshop is a negotiation workshop. We're calling it Next Level Negotiation. And our guest speaker was talking exactly about when you know your uniqueness, then your pricing becomes a side note because it's not about the budget. It's about what do you bring to the stage? What are you bringing to the promotion, the offer? How can you increase the value of the offer so that you can pitch a higher fee? And so anyway, I love this because it helps not only in the branding and the marketing and the confidence on stage, but then also in the pricing, which is coming back to the sustainability that you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I want to join.
Yeah.
Negotiation isn't always formal, right? There's always some positioning that you're doing and bringing forth of what your value is and not just in a formal, like, hey, I want to sit down and negotiate this fee.
So give us, just to wrap up, I'd love to hear a couple fun stories that have come out of your work with Music 360 or like fun client moments or stories that have stuck with you over the last years? Because you've been doing this for a while, right? When did you guys start?
Well, there's so many parts to it. And group work has been the biggest part of it. The students that I have at CCM, and the one-on-ones that I have been able to do here through Music 360 are less. I mean, the clarinet teaching is huge on this side, and then with Music 360 and working with all musicians, um, it's just been really something that feeds teaching instrumental lessons, right?
Mhm.
Because you're able to talk a lot more about, hey, this is an acting technique that I learned that I think you can use in this section of music right here. So just having the sides inform each other has been fascinating. But a precursor to Music 360 was a program called Next Gen that I did with my chamber ensemble. And this was way back pre-pandemic times. And we would bring in master's levels or doctoral or preformed groups to come and do weekly workshops. And then we would help them go out in the community in Cincinnati to create programming. We got a grant for this, and we had maybe 20 people, a few groups. They would come in, they'd get their headshot taken, and then they would go and say, okay, we're going to create a series with our group, and they would write the copy for it. They would go out and negotiate the fees and the times and the drink specials, you know, all the little details of it. And I would say that's probably the most memorable thing for me, is to see people taking action and getting results and gaining the confidence. And sometimes it's actually a small thing. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
someone who's just afraid to speak out at a faculty meeting. There's a client of mine who wanted to change something about how things were done at her school. And
Mm.
she was definitely afraid of saying anything for fear of retribution or for fear of judgment. And we talked about that one thing for a few weeks before she finally took action. And so I think that sometimes it doesn't have to be like a whole chamber series or a huge project where you're negotiating this and performing it and getting it out there. Sometimes it's just, I want to use my voice,
Mm.
and it's all beautiful.
Mhm.
And any way that we can go from keeping it in and then using our voice is, to me, all worth it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Empowering musicians. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your example. You're reaching so many people. We just really appreciate also your longevity, your consistency that you keep showing up through all the seasons of life. We really appreciate the work you're putting out there. For
Thank you.
everyone listening, if there was one action point to put into practice all of this wonderful information you've shared with us today, do you have something that comes to mind?
Probably just what we talked about with introducing yourself as more than just blank.
Hmm. That's
I
so great.
am a this and that who loves blank.
I love that. I'm going to practice that. I'm going to make everybody in TFA practice that.
Yeah,
Ixi, thank you.
awesome.
How can people find you and follow you?
It is www.music-360, the words spelled out.com.
Okay, great.
And
And on
that's where we are.
Instagram, also Music
Instagram,
360 spelled out.
yes, with no
Yes.
dash.
And if you guys want that free download of the onlyness, Ixi will send that to you. Just go follow her, send her a nice DM. Thank
Thank
you,
you
Ixi,
so
for being here
much.
today.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me. It
my
was a pleasure.
pleasure. Great. Okay, everybody, see you on the next episode and be fearless.